Get that last hit of bourbon before the show starts. The old jug of bourbon makes life easier.
You're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
And we have another very special episode. We have the 2011 film In Time. Came out October 28th, 2011, just in time for Halloween.
Yep.
Which usually that is like August and October are kind of, well, no, usually the August is a time when they have like a high concept film that they don't know if it's like good enough to be a summer blockbuster, so they'll dump it in August, and it's kind of like a hit, or it's like 50-50 whether it'll actually be a hit or not. So I don't know why they're releasing in October. Directed by Andrew Niccol, who also directed and wrote things like Gattaca, which is very close to.
Yes.
He does very kind of social commentary with technology things. He did that movie called Anon that we watched. It was a Netflix movie with like Clive Owen and also Amanda Seyfried, or how are you saying it? Yeah, Amanda Seyfried, yeah. Where like, everybody's life is recorded through their eyes by the government.
Yeah.
Starring Justin Timberlake. Which this is like his first starring role.
Okay.
This is coming off of Southland Tales, of course, and then he was in The Social Network. But
okay.
You got Olivia Wilde, we got Amanda Seyfried, and Jonathan Galicki of Big Bang Theory fame and Roseanne fame. And you got Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, I was surprised at the cast in this. I didn't expect, because I had never seen this movie.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I was surprised when he showed up. It's like, oh yeah, they got a pretty good cast here.
Yeah, I've also never seen this movie, mostly because like I heard the concept and I was like, that sounds awesome. And then every time I hear like more things about it, I was like, yeah, I'm in. And then the reviews came out and they said it was terrible. I was like, I guess I won't see it.
Yeah, I don't know if terrible's the way I describe it is. I think it has real pacing problems.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's one of the movies I love the idea of it, and because that activates my imagination, like I don't criticize the actual like kind of structure of the movie. I'm just more like, oh, this is cool. This is cool. But
yeah,
it has
because
like
Gattaca, that movie, like people still try to capture that style. People they want that style, and this is kind of a lower rent version of the Gattaca style, where it's basically like mono cars. It's like everyone drives one type or another car, except for a few oddballs that like describe who they are. They're either rich, or they're cops, or they're super rich. And they did. It's like they went to the guys who make like dub cars, and they're like, yeah, make this cool because I see they shaved all the door handles and put oversized rims on them, and very monochromatic world.
I mean, they had some stuff like that in the Romeo and Juliet movie. Also, there's some stuff like that in the Looper movie, which came out a year later from this one. But I mean, it has like a 37% on Rotten Tomatoes, so the critics don't like it. It has like a 51 for the audience. But again, Rotten Tomatoes wasn't the same back then, so sometimes the metrics can be skewed because of how different places judge things differently.
Okay.
Yeah, because like every place has their own scoring system. So like, what's like what basically Rotten Tomatoes acts as like a thumbs up, thumbs down based on like the scoring system. So basically, like if you're doing a 3 out of 5 star system, then like basically if you get 3 stars, which and would kind of mean like, oh, that's 60%, like, well, that's passing, certified fresh. If it's thumbs up, thumbs down, that's pretty simple. It's either it is or not, it isn't. Some places like 51%, if they have 100% scale, it's like, well, fresh.
You passed.
Well, actually, I can't remember what the fresh. I don't know what the fresh threshold on Rotten Tomatoes is, but
I thought it was 80% or something.
Okay. Um, but yeah, so that, I mean that's all that metadata because where the source is like that, all that can be confusing. That's how you get some movies where it's like, why does this have such a high rating? And when you read the reviews, it's kind of more middling, like acceptance of like this is an okay movie.
Yeah. I like about 60% of this movie.
But Roger Ebert, he's still alive when this movie came out. He gave it 3 out of 4 stars, which that's pretty good from him. So again, he was more like the idea of it rather than the execution. But
yeah,
it's kind of how it is.
It is kind of a weird concept to execute in a movie length.
Yes,
in like a short story length, or in a as a written work in a short story, or even as like a Twilight Zone type episode. Yeah, you could tell a short story within this world, but they're actually trying to like make this economy make sense and show not only why it's evil but how it works and how to destabilize it.
And ironically, the movie actually needed more time because it's a pretty short movie. It's
not very long. I actually thought we were going to have a second half, like after him and the girl run to the car and stop themselves from dying. I thought, oh, okay, well this is like Act 3. There's going to be a fourth act. Like, nope, that's it. Okay. It seemed to be like weirdly. That's my overall. That's my whole problem with this movie. The pacing is weird, and the bad guys don't pay off really.
Yeah,
just kind of like summarily dismissed. It was like, wait a minute, this was building towards something. I thought, but it didn't. It didn't happen.
I don't know. So like it's because this is only like this is 2011, so it's only 3 years away from the, the financial crisis. So maybe people were like, this is too on the nose and annoying for what it's for how it's delivering its message. But maybe that I have distance from it now. It's like, oh, this seems quaint. Like I'm okay with this.
Well, the thing with this kind of system, if we could go into weird economics talk, amateur economics, but it's like the problem is like this is just capitalism to its ultimate end.
Yeah,
where it's like life and death. It's like that's the that has now been evaluated. The world we live in now, life and death comes and goes, and it's like, it can be influenced by wealth versus poverty, but it's like, if you go bankrupt, you don't die. Some people would want that to happen, and if they could utilize technology like this, it would. But this is like this is like the ultimate like capitalist world. This is like its end game. It's like, well, it doesn't get more severe than this, and the reason this exists is because it stops to explain halfway through. It's like, well, what value is there? And it's like, unfortunately, that's not untrue based on the economic models we have, because you have capitalism, which essentially crudely works like you add value to something and sell it.
Yeah.
And then so everything is sold based on value, like a car, a diamond ring, whatever, in capitalist systems. In communist systems, you just have quotas to meet, and the thing is made with no value. It's just using energy, and the quota is fulfilled, and there's no encouragement to go forward or hit the brakes on it, because you're not creating scarcity in a communist system, because everything's scarce in a communist system in reality. But in the fantasy of it, when you have command economies where you build X amount of cars, X amount of homes, X amount of this, and then you hit your quota and you're done, that leads to all kinds of problems. And we've seen these systems rise and fall very rapidly because of that. The first thing that goes is quality. The second thing that goes is any sense of value of anything. It's like things become very destructive, and I mean, it's we can see in wars going on today the value of old Soviet bloc equipment. It's like, that was made with no intention of quality or maintenance to it at all. It was just, we made our quota this month. Everyone gets their bonus of vodka. Good deal. So this is like the capitalism gone just to an insane level. But it actually is a good theory and model of how capitalism would work.
Oh yeah, it actually makes things more clear and less nebulous. It's like, oh, this directly affects me no matter what.
Yep.
I kind of remember like when I got an F1, and you have to think about everything in terms of time in F1, so everything makes sense, because there'll be like a weird time where you see like a guy's like maybe like they're going into a corner, and like the timetable says like the guy heads 4 seconds ahead, but it's like, wait, they're just like 20 feet apart in the corner. Like, how's that guy 4 seconds ahead? And you just have to convert everything into seconds, because then it makes sense, because it's like, okay, the pit stops this time, if there's a mistake it's this time, safety car affects time, all this. And then you can start seeing that, you can start seeing the numbers, and it's like, okay, this guy's fucked, because when he goes in the pits he's going to come up behind this guy, and then it's easier to see all that stuff. So it makes it more exciting, and it also kind of ruins the drama.
It just becomes math war.
I guess there's no like, oh, this underdog's gonna pull it out. He's gonna hunker down, and he's gonna work his way through it. It's like, nah, I see the numbers, dude. You're dead.
Yeah, it's like, oh, look how dramatically he's gaining ground. The other guy's kind of coasting. It's like, yeah, because he's won. There's no reason to destroy the car, burn more fuel, take any risk. He has won. Exactly. That's why he's coasting. It's like, yeah, the other guy's making a great effort to do something he can't do.
And has to destroy his car to do so.
Yeah.
So we have Act 1. Our second in the feature of a Justin Timberlake voiceover.
Yeah.
It explains that you stop aging at 25. And once you turn 25, you have like a year timer, and then time is the currency. And basically, like, rich people can live forever because they just have all the time in the world. So yeah, you get a year after 25, and if you don't earn any more money / time, then you just die of a heart attack instantly.
Yeah.
And everyone has an interactive glowing green tattoo timer that shows like the time you have left. And then we're introduced to Justin Timberlake as Will Salas. He wakes up, he says hi to his mom. Rachel Salas is played by Olivia Wilde, because nobody ages in this world. So she's 50, she's turning 50, but she's 25.
Yeah, that was kind of jarring. That was a good scene. It's like, well, happy 50th, Mom. And she looks like she's 20 years old.
Yeah.
It's like, huh.
Which just must have been great for like perverted producers. It's like, oh, it's great. We don't have to hire old people. Like, line up all the young people and let me look at them.
Well, throughout the course of the movie, while everyone is younger, there's some people that, like, some side characters, like, that dude's 25. Must have been a rough life. Those people have more gray hair than I do. And it's like, well, maybe that is the stress they live under. I don't know. But see, if the only thing you die from is running out of money or physical damage, I guess there's no cancer or anything anymore.
Yeah.
Cillian Murphy can get shot in the chest, and then an hour later he's throwing punches. And so it seems to be like, yeah, there's some kind of super med tech here that we're not introduced to.
Yeah. I mean, then like Gattaca, like, I don't think these are combined universes, but in Gattaca, that was all about like, they basically engineered humanity to perfection, and it was only the people that were like born through natural birth that have deformities that people are like looked down upon them. So it's very similar in that aspect.
Yeah, what they call them, degenerates or something. They had some kind of name for them. And
yeah,
there was a lot of good things about Gattaca, but ultimately kind of a bit bad aftertaste. It's like, oh, that's it. Okay. Huh. All right.
So yeah, he worked overtime to buy his mom champagne for her 50th birthday. Now I looked at her timer, and she has like less than 3 days left on her timer. Every time I see the timer, it's like they don't have enough time. Like, because it's always like, I mean, it's literally like they're saying like they're living day by day, and it's a literal thing. Like, yeah, you got 24 hours left to live.
That's not a euphemism.
Which must have been great to write the screenplay, because there's all the little like things where it's like, oh, now this has a different meaning, like it has more dire meaning. It's just a phrase that we use, and it's like according to time and stuff like that. And they must have just like ejaculated every time while writing the screenplay, and then to stop.
Time waits for no man.
And also like the thing they don't get into is like, if you had 24 hours to live and you knew it, you wouldn't be sleeping at all.
Oh. And all I gotta do is hold someone down, knock them out, and grab their arm. and have this transfer of time. It's like, well, it would be, I mean, it's bad in like a ghetto, but there's like police there, but they're only police that are there to enforce like time crimes.
Yeah.
It's like they don't seem to care about like casual violence and murder and mayhem. But so it seems like this would be a much more brutal world than it is. Because yeah, it's like, yeah, if you had a clock running like that, it's like, well, I got to take 8 hours to sleep. It's like, no, you don't. You got to get out there and knock somebody out. You can't kill them because then their clock just stops in a weird way. But
rise and grind. You gotta live.
Just swinging a sword.
Although you're perpetually 25 and seemingly have no problems, so that'd probably be like, you know, doable.
Well, he even said in one part of the movie, yeah, people don't sleep much here.
Yeah.
Where are they at? Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah, they say Dayton, but I'm not sure they say Ohio.
Yeah, they don't name because they call it New Greenwich, and the only Greenwich I know of is in Connecticut. So
yeah,
but we don't know how far in the future this is either.
Well, wait, is there a place in New York called Greenwich Village?
Yeah, but I think that's like part of the city.
Yeah, I thought that was like a bougie part of New York City.
Yeah, I think it is.
I can't remember, but
or it's where all the communists are. One of the, I don't know. There's all kinds of weird.
But it sounds kind of fancy. Although this entire movie shot in L.A. So
yeah, you can tell too.
Yeah, Gattaca is a much darker movie. This kind of seems like Gattaca in the sunlight.
Yeah. So one of the things I appreciated about Gattaca was its aesthetic of depression.
Yeah, so they got bills to pay and they're late on stuff, which I don't really know. I don't necessarily know how, like, because it seems like if you have a debt, it's not immediately taken out of your timer, but you do have a debt you have to pay off. But I don't know, it's like sometimes like I wish this was like a TV show, so then you could get more into like the dynamics of how everything worked, and things would work better if you just spend more time with characters and then have them untimely die and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Here they just got to rush everything, so
yeah, they got 90 minutes
so they do like this mid-arm handshake thing to like pass off time to each other, and like somehow it can, like, whoever's hands on top gives the time, or no, takes the time, and whoever's hands on the bottom loses the time. I believe so.
Yeah.
Which I'm just thinking of like computer hacking stuff. It's like, this seems rife with you could hack this, or what do you call it? Be irresponsible with this. But yeah, that's why you have like time crime going on, where people just literally just take time away from people and hold them up by gunpoint.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this transaction shouldn't be allowed, but
yeah, there doesn't seem to be like any, like, yeah, you can use your time to buy drugs, or, you know.
Let's see here. So his mom gives she gives him 30 minutes for lunch. That's his lunch money. He has less than 24 hours. Then like some like girl comes running up to him. He's walking to work, and he says like, "You got a minute?" Which now has a whole new meaning. And so Will gives her 5 minutes, and because like your timer doesn't start to your 25, like her timer she doesn't have a timer, but she has like this little time capsule that holds time money, that's like her wallet is this time capsule, and he gives her 5 minutes, and she's apparently just like an orphan or something. Like, yeah. She doesn't have parents. She like just lives on the street, and that's how she gets money. So when she comes of age, she'll have some extra stuff. Well, I mean, she can't buy anything, so this is how she buys stuff, is just with this time capsule. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Then him and his friend get coffee, and then they're like, 4 minutes for a cup of coffee. So yeah, they're complaining about like, the interest rate rising on things. And they show a timed out dead guy, but nobody really cares. Although it's all the thing they fear, but like, they can't stop to fear. They got to keep going. There's a little bit when he runs to work, and it's like, oh yeah, I guess if you don't have a car and you're gonna die today if you don't do anything, gotta run to work.
Yeah, and he's 25, so
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, you can still run when you're 25.
I mean, technically he's 28, but like his body's perpetually 25. But
Yeah.
So yeah, Will works at a factory making the time capsules things, and it's just like a silver box that has a time reader on it, and then it has like a little like oval shape on the end, so you can hold it over your arm, so like the time can transfer, and it goes into that. So that's basically like a mobile bank account.
Yeah.
And then let's see. Then, Will clocks out, and then he gets shorted time because like they moved the quota for production. He's like, "What? I'm up. My quota's up from yesterday." And they're like, "Yeah, they moved the quota." So, it's a pretty quick way of just showing how unfair the world is. Like, he's gonna die today. They're not giving him his money. And then, this is the weird thing is like Will goes to the bar. It's like, how would you ever have time to celebrate? or
What
or
are
go
you
to the
celebrating?
bar. Yeah. There's a little thing here where like he walks by a poker table and he says he doesn't play poker anymore. And one guy's like, yeah, ever since you quit playing poker, I just kept winning. So, like I almost forgot that part where it's like later on when he's like playing poker. I was like, how's this guy a professional poker player all of a sudden? I was like, oh yeah, they mentioned that. So yeah, it's a skill he has. But there's some rich guy in the bar and he's buying everyone drinks and he has like 100 years. And then like Will goes up to him and is like, yeah, someone's gonna come here and clean your clock, and like not punch him, just like take all his time off of him.
Yeah, punch him first, and then
then take all his time. This is Henry Hamilton, played by Matt Bomber. Like the only thing you might know from is like commercials for the USA TV series White Collar.
he's just a beautiful man. The kind of people, especially rich people in this universe.
And so yeah, Will tells him he needs to get out of the bar or someone's gonna kill him, and like he seems purely aware of that, and that's why he's here in the first place. Then the Minutemen show up, which is a group of gangsters that steal time from people. They come into the bar. Everyone leaves, but Will's like kind of standing by. The gangster says, that's a very nice watch you got there. Not referring to an actual wristwatch. It's what they're calling his green glowing timer on his arm. He goes to like go to the bathroom to vomit, and like one thug is like standing by the door. Will knocks that guy out, and then he gets Henry out of there, and the gang chase after him in their futuristic Cadillac Seville. Well, it's not really futuristic. It just sounds futuristic.
Yeah, everything sounds like it has some kind of whirring electric motor.
Yeah.
And they have no door handles on any cars in this universe. You just press the button from the ends, which is actually a real thing. I know people that do that. Or I've not known, but I've seen it before. It seems kind of silly to me because you're depending on a servo now to open and close your door, but
yeah, it'll never go bad. Yeah.
Look could go wrong.
I guess it'd make it harder to pick too, but
yeah,
or not. I guess you could probably hack that too, and then just have a device that opens people's doors. They can do that anyway, so yeah, you got to keep up.
Do that no matter what.
One of the gangsters knows Will, because like they hide it. They able to like escape and hide in a warehouse, and they're like so they're just planning to go after Will after when they find him again. Then Will and Henry like wait out the gang in the warehouse, and he goes like, "You're from New Greenwich," and like Will's clock has like 18 hours on it. And Henry asks Will how old he is. He says he's 28, and then Henry says he's 105, and of course he's just a young man. Here, I just wrote down a bunch of the dialogue. It's just like, your mind can be spent even if your body is not. He's talking about like, we need to die because he's just fed up with life, and not necessarily like because it's like cruel and it's been unfair. He's not necessarily seeking justice for the poor people. He's just done with life.
Yeah.
Um, he's also where he like lays out the basically like the system's rigged because he talks about like the cost of living keeps going up, keeps getting higher to make sure that people keep dying because if everybody can live forever, then like nobody dies and the population just grows and grows and grows until it can't be sustained. So,
Well, this concept's been explored too about people getting to Neil Asher in the Polity universe has some because everyone there is just full of because it's a universe run by AI or at least the human polity is just run by AIs with people as because AIs value humans as their creator and see a purpose in life. Like humans still exist there, but everyone's just full of nano machines and they never die naturally.
yeah.
And in that universe, they have what they call an ennui barrier, where it's when people live for about 200 to 300 years, they start becoming very violent criminals and doing insane things. But they're super dangerous because a lot of them have the equivalent of like multiple PhDs and like they can really do bad stuff. And they finally get so old and they never age that they just some people go insane. And that's what they call the ennui barrier. What else is it? Alistair Reynolds' Revelation Space Universe has a version of that where people live so long it's like, yeah, let's just start killing people for fun, you know. It's so there's this concept that people like the human mind was never meant to exist that long, even if it did exist in a perfect, flawless state. It's like, yeah, people would just go insane. I don't know if that's true or not, but you think you would always find challenges.
I mean, it's the most like story-wise interesting conclusion.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it makes for great stories. I mean,
no,
the whole
no one wants to read the story is like, and they lived forever and everything was cool.
I mean, the whole polity universe just swung around basically like this is a paradise, except for when the giant crab creatures come and kill everyone every so often. But other than that, it's like it's a human paradise. It's like the ultimate end of what like the optimism in Starfleet would be is just like Star Trek would be just like it's everyone being their best. And yeah, for about 200 years they are. And then they start like wanting to watch people burn and stuff. It's like, why? And they've never figured it out. They don't have the answer to it in that universe. I don't know. Revelation Space, everyone got killed, so you never found out. But
there's an interesting game called what is that? Oh crap! It's just called the Turing Test, and it's like a puzzle game, and like you don't know why you're there, and then you find out at the end you're on. I think you're on Mars, and the AI is like trying to keep you from leaving because while you're on Mars they discovered like this discovered like a bacteria that will basically end all of human like maladies. Like it'll just keep people alive and they won't die of disease. And then the AI is like just figured it out, like just ran the numbers like you can't go back to Earth because the Earth will not sustain if everyone can live forever.
Yeah, it's got about 80 years and then it just everything's consumed on the planet.
And there's also like there's one of the it might be season 2, I can't remember. There's a episode of Love, Death and Robots about that where basically like nobody can have kids because everybody can live forever, and then they find people that are like sneaking a way to have kids, and then they have to like kill the kids and kill the parents.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, okay, I remember that one. Yeah, I was like needlessly bleak.
Yeah, well, I mean that's
kill the kids. I mean, they kill the parents, but
I think they kill both.
Oh, okay. Wow, I forgot. I knew I'd seen it.
I think they kill the parents for breaking the rules, and I think they kill the kids because they're not registered.
That's the one where it's like a detective, like a 30s detective, right?
Yeah, yeah, but he's got a flying car.
Yeah, it's like Blade Runner-esque.
Yeah, it's like, what's that style called?
Neo-noir.
No, it's like Art Deco Blade Runner.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know. Every time someone says Art Deco, my go-to is the early 90s Batman the Animated Series. I just consider that to be Art Deco.
No, it is actually. Yeah, it's that style. Art Deco was the style right before the Depression.
Okay.
And then things become much less glamorous and have remained that way.
So yeah. Henry says like no one has to die before their time. Again, just imagining when they're writing this, every time they put time in there, it's like, we did it.
We're the best.
I mean, I guess you have to do it. It's what everybody wants.
Yeah, it just makes every reference to things a double entendre.
Yeah.
Which is like cool once or twice, but after a while, it's like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
People would not be as fascinated with this concept. Because if this guy's 110 years old, then that means this has been going on at least that long, maybe longer.
I think I read the year's supposed to be 2169 or something. So.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that.
I don't think it's mentioned. It's when I went to the Wikipedia page it said that, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I mean, enough time has passed that there are literally no old people, so we don't know. Like, history is very aloof. Like, you could probably only tell it by like people's style. You couldn't tell by age. Like, oh, that person's old. They've like seen a life. Like, you would have no idea. So yeah, the other dialogue is like, if you had as much time on the clock, what would you do with it? And then he says, I'd stop watching it. So yeah, more stuff. Then Will tells Henry to get some sleep, and then while Will's sleeping, Henry gives Will like all of his time except for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So he gives him like 100 years. Will wakes up and sees "Don't waste time" written on the wall, and then he sees Henry like sitting on the edge of a bridge. And then Henry's time runs out, or as they call it here, being timed out. And then he just has like a sudden heart attack and then dies and falls off the bridge. And it's like over like that kind of LA River thing. So it's like somewhat full of, has a stream of water, but he just kind of basically just lands on some concrete with some water on it.
Yeah. Just so he doesn't like, just burst when he hits the ground.
Oh yeah, and there's also like cameras everywhere, so just to let you know, it's like, remember, this is a dystopia.
Yeah.
So I have that being the end of Act 1. It might not be, but I just have that be. It's like, okay, now we know the concept. We know like he just got given a bunch of time. And now wait, what's he gonna do with it? So I have Act 2. Will meets Greta, who's Boral's wife. That's Jonathan Glickly as his friend. Will shows Boral his new time, and then he says like, how long have you been friends? He's like, I don't know, like 10 years. And so he gives him 10 years. And it's like night, and we see Rachel paying off her loan, and then she gets on the bus, but she doesn't have enough time to pay for the bus because it costs 2 hours and she has like an hour and a half. And the driver tells her to run home because she's like, it's a 2-hour walk. And it's like, well, you better run. And then she is like literally running, but apparently not fast enough. Well, she's also stopping to like basically trying to get a ride from anybody, or if she can get help from somebody. Will's waiting at the bus stop, but she doesn't there because she didn't get on the bus. And then they spot each other and they're like running for each other, but then she dies in his arms because of course.
Yeah.
He's got all the time in the world, and she had none left. And then we see the cops show up. They're looking at Henry's body. It's Raymond Lee, that's played by Cillian Murphy, and he's some detective, or they call him the timekeeper. So they're like the peacekeeper, but time. And instead of saying follow the money, he says follow the time. Will gets in a limo, and then like they have like time zone borders, which isn't like literally like the way time zones we consider it. It's just
that was kind of clever, I thought, because when you the time zones, like, oh yeah, I gotta move the watch around an hour. It's like, no, it's just basically a delineation of wealth.
Yeah, and as they keep going through the gates, like the time keeps costing more and more. And when they get to like finally get to New Greenwich, he's like that costs a year, which means like you like the most money you'll ever have, like if as soon as you turn 25, is a year. So basically, there's no way to get into the city unless you're just wealthy beyond all or inherited it.
Yeah.
Um, although it is pretty weird because like it takes like this whole scene takes like 10 minutes of like driving through all those checkpoints, and then in the rest of the movie like going between Dayton and New Greenwich like takes like a minute.
Yeah, it seems like they're just like right next to each other. It's like what they do, just drive in a big circle outside of the cities.
The limo driver took the long way around, get some more money out of it. And then the driver's like, yeah, what are you gonna do? And he's like, I'm gonna take them for everything I got. I'm gonna make them pay. So now he's kind of like on a revenge quest, but it's like not an unfocused revenge quest. Well, right now, like, I mean, this part of the movie, he's just kind of like indulging because now he has all this time, and it's like I'm gonna see how the other half lives. Yeah, New Greenwich, like everyone's dressed nicely. I would say like everyone looks pretty, but like even the poor people like look pretty, so that's just how this movie is. So.
Yeah.
You cast it in LA, you get all the pretty people you can that are 25. And then Will starts like hurrying at first, and then he realizes like only poor people hurry, and then he starts walking,
Yeah,
which is
a
real
out of the car and starts running. It's like,
yeah. And this is where Will and Sylvia Weiss, Amanda Seyfried, like they spot each other for a moment because she sees that he's running, so she immediately knows like, oh, you're not supposed to be here. Will gets a suite at the hotel, and like costs, I think he said like a regular thing costs 3 months, but like they don't even mention how much the suite costs, but doesn't matter to him. At least not now. We have the time because the timekeepers are going over surveillance, and they think Will killed Henry because like apparently the way the camera angle looked, like they didn't see the whole thing, they just saw bits and pieces of it. And here's the beginning thing where like the Raymond says like people can sense when you have a month more on you than you should in the ghetto. And then Will gets lunch and he tips Will. He gives like, take a week for yourself. And then the waitress says like, yeah, you're not from around here because you moved too fast. Then we have more of the timekeepers looking for Will, and Raymond says that he remembers his father. Which that whole angle really goes nowhere.
Yeah, I was expecting to be like, oh, is his father like some kind of liberation guy or?
That's what they hint at, but they never follow through on that. So.
Well, yeah, it's essentially it's. I mean, you see where it's going though. It's like this whole Robin Hood thing.
Yeah, it's a there's Robin Hood, there's Bonnie and Clyde, which shouldn't be put together.
I was thinking more like who was the lady who was Patty Hearst, Viennese Liberation Army, Robin Banks. Like, wait, they kidnapped her. Now she's waving a machine gun around in a bank.
Yeah, which is kind of like, it was like it's the one part too far in this movie. It's like she should be like scared of him and never want to be around him again. It's like then she becomes infatuated with him. But that's just where the story needs to go. So they again, the story moves too fast for itself. Will goes to a casino and he plays poker. He meets Philippe Weiss. He introduces himself. This is Vincent Kartheiser from Mad Men, who plays a great, just like snooty piece of shit. And he's supposed to be
that Weiss name is everywhere.
Yeah,
because that's where people get time loans. So this guy's, he's all the evil wrapped into one.
Yeah, he's a time broker. But we don't even, I don't know, they suggest that he's not even like the top one, but like they kind of intimate that it's like he's at least 100 or even more.
Yeah.
Could be 200 years old for all I know.
Yeah, but these people essentially live like vampires. Like they just they're beautiful people that have these great lives, but they're like, you can tell with the look in their eyes and the way they act. It's like, they're not happy. They're just kind of existing.
Yeah, because like even though they're immortal, they can still die. Like they're never gonna die from running out of time, but they will die by blunt instruments, accidents. They won't die.
Gunfire.
Yeah. So they they shelter themselves from any kind of danger because you have to keep going. um, This is also where you use the phrase like "you must come from time," which means do you come from money?
Yeah.
This is also where like Philippe like preaches like some survival of the fittest bullshit because when you're rich, that's what you do to justify being absurdly rich. It's like I survived, I climbed the mountain,
Which is all very true. Also, it's like it's not. Yeah, those people talk like that all the way, all the time. And then when they need you to vote for them, it's like you could be like me. It's like, oh, my dad could be a millionaire and give me a big head start. Cool. How can you make that happen? They don't like those kind of questions. You're just jealous. It's like, I wouldn't say jealous is the complete emotion.
Yeah, but also those people have like never met a revolution before, so that'll be a hard time for them.
Yeah, that's when it gets nuts. This framework that you depend so much on, literally for your life, like when it suddenly unravels. Yeah, it's. I tried to help you all. It's like, yeah, you didn't, and to the headsman with you.
So Philippe bets like 2 centuries, and Will calls, and while he's calling, like he only has like half a minute left.
Yeah.
And then Will wins the pot and like
waits 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weiss does. And then Will calls his bluff. He's like, I don't think so.
Yeah. And like he lets his arm like tick down to 2 seconds before he collects the time. Also, like Sylvia's there, so she senses his like danger and is like enticed by it. So
they also did very weird eye makeup on her, the actress in the movie. They make her seem like it's very futuristic and weird looking at the same time. Like they make her seem almost like a machine, like a robot person. Yeah. Which she comes out of later, but it's like whoever did the makeup in this really, it was very jarring to see how, because they made her eyes look as big as like golf balls. It's like, whoa, that's some strange eye makeup. Okay. But they're weird people too.
Oh yeah. That's also where he mentions like because you don't know like who Sylvia is, and he's like, I know what you're thinking. Is she my mother, my sister, my daughter? And it's like, yeah, because you don't know. Families weird. Must be weird. Let's have the family reunion. Like it's like this looks like some weird. Everybody just graduated from college.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's his daughter. And then he invites Will to a party because he wants like a chance to win some of his money back. Will buys a sports car for 59 years. And the guy's like, delivery costs extra. He's like, well, I don't want it delivered. It's like to display it. He's like, I'm not going to display it. I'm going to drive it.
I believe that's a Jaguar E-Type.
Okay.
It's supposed to be. I'm not sure. Go ahead. Let me look that up because I want to know. Because I know they have the Avante in the background all over the place because those were the famous cars from Gattaca. Like everyone drove an Avante.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's a Jaguar XKE.
Okay.
Even in our time, in terms of money, that's a very expensive vehicle to own and restore, and you wouldn't drive it.
Well, here it's the rich people don't drive the cool cars because that's just too dangerous.
Yeah. They sit in armored limousines.
Will drives to Philip's house. Where he flirts with Sylvia. They dance, and then she picks up on that he's from the ghetto and just like states it outright. And he takes her out to the beach, and then she's like, "We don't go into the water." And then they both go out into the ocean naked.
But their weird time tattoos are glowing vividly. Shot in like almost total darkness. Like the glowing tattoos are the tell, which was probably to get him away from nudity and just to look kind of cool.
Yeah. And then Will and Sylvia go back inside, and Philip wants to play another poker game, but then the timekeepers bust in. They take Will upstairs, and they're like, here I write to him more dialogue where he's like, it's not illegal to change time zones, is it? And he's like, it's not illegal, it's just rare. And then Will tells him that he won his time, like, and that Henry gave him his time, like, and before he timed out. And then, like, Raymond says, like, that time is in the wrong hands, and so they take all of his time except for 2 hours. So they take like a century off of him.
No, they almost.
1,000 years. Yeah, it's a millennium, right? Okay.
Yep.
But then Will knocks out one of the timekeepers, takes his gun. He grabs Sylvia as a human shield. This scene, I read it as she seemed to have like a smile on her face as she's being dragged away. It's like, oh, is she excited about this? But later on, she's like, no, this is bad. So I think it was just like a weird, like they picked like kind of a weird shot.
Well, she's someone not used to emotions of any kind.
Yeah.
And so when you finally feel an emotion, maybe your face doesn't exactly line up with it. I'm trying to guess things about her character because she's such a weird, almost unlikable character. Like, if it wasn't for Justin Timberlake, like, you really wouldn't like anyone in this movie. Yeah, I mean, the Cillian Murphy character, you try to understand him. It's like he's just a guy who's like his whole in life, and he's like 50 some years old, or he's older than that. He's given 50 years to being a timekeeper. Yeah, it's like, I believe in the stability of the system. I don't believe in the justice of it, but it's the only thing that's stable. Like, he kind of has that complex nuance vibe, but it doesn't always come through.
No. Well, yeah, it seemed like the Sylvia character is kind of like a trophy for the rich guy. It's like, well, I have a daughter, I have a wife, and I have a and my mother, and they're all the same age. Here they are. I displayed them for you. Yeah, the cops have like future Dodge Chargers, or just a Dodge Charger with some future stuff on. Or was that a newer Dodge Charger in this movie?
No, those are older. Those are 70s ones. Okay. They've just been what do they call that? Smooth, like a
body kit with added to them or something. And the car says she has to be let out, so that's where it's like, okay, yeah, she doesn't like this. Okay, because he didn't just put a gun to her. Honestly, he knocks out a guard and grabs an additional gun, because there was like a scene later on where it's like he puts a gun on the table, and then the next shot it's a different gun. But it's like, oh no, there's two guns on the table. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, and then Will drives in reverse through traffic, and then like ends up like a truck avoids him and then hits Raymond's car, and so they get away. He parks.
I always love those multi-geared reverses that come in the car where you can drive like almost at full power.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh wow, they have multiple reverse gear ranges too. That must be a fancy car thing, because most cars just have one reverse gear, and it's usually a 1-to-5 ratio. It winds up very quick.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you're driving 60 with that, that'd be like...
Yeah, I think it'd be like, pegged out at $8,000 RPM wise. Transmission would be smoking.
Yeah, they did something like that in one of the Fast and Furious movies, and I believe they literally just had to like build the engine backwards to do the stunt where they drive in reverse at like 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. So
it's like you don't have a reverse gear. You have like your regular gears, but it's for the car in reverse.
Yeah. It's just they probably did something to the transmission to reverse the flow through it or something.
Yeah,
because that's just transmission is just all based on hydraulic pressure. So not a manual transmission. That's a whole different animal. But
I mean, that's all I got in those movies. So.
Yeah. That's all you should have, really. I enjoy them a lot, but they're a rare animal anymore.
Yeah,
and they're also not. They used to say the thing with the manual transmission was fuel economy, but with all the computer cars now, it's like that's not the case.
Yeah,
actually.
No. Yeah, not anymore. Not unless you're a really good driver.
Yeah, you have to be like, on the button with that.
Yeah, Will parks under a highway, and then he like asks for time from Sylvia, but she doesn't want to give it to him because he's got like less than 2 hours, and she's got like I don't know like 50 years or something like that, or 100, whatever. Then it's like daytime, and again there's like weird. It's like this guy's got 2 hours left to live, and then suddenly it's like daybreak. It's like, well, how much time was that? Like 15 minutes or 3 hours? But and so they're driving back to Dayton. Again, they get back to Dayton like way too quickly for how they set it up in the beginning. The gangsters set up spike strips and the car crashes, and it's like super awkward because either it's like just a CGI crash or they did something where like they put the cars on wires and just removed them, and it looks really weird.
Yeah, it's a very strange looking crash. I just assumed it was CGI, but
Yeah.
I was not convinced.
Then the gangsters steal a decade from Sylvia while she's passed out. She wakes up freaked out because she only has like 30 minutes left. Will gives her some time, and they run off together to go get some more time. Raymond finds the crash. He gets time transferred. He's like, give me my per diem. And apparently he was like close to death because the other guys were like, hey, cutting it close there. So that we kind of find out like, oh, they don't pay the timekeepers that well because they don't.
They don't want to be corrupted, so they like pay them daily.
Yeah.
So they can't like go off the grid and go do crazy stuff. I'm assuming it's a way to control them.
Yeah.
Because they seem to have unlimited autonomy and authority.
Yeah.
Like, cause they just march right into the rich guy's house, his office building, everything. No one stops them. So apparently they have a great deal of autonomy, but the way they keep them in check is that they just pay them daily. So they won't ever like, I don't know the logic of that though, because it seems like once you start stealing time, you just steal all you want.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Again, that's the thing that would like be better explored in a TV series rather than this movie.
Yeah, I'm just assuming stuff.
Will goes to Borrell's house, and Borrell apparently killed himself drinking because he gave him 10 years and he drank himself to death, which is extremely stupid and all of a sudden.
Yeah, it just seemed like a way to, I don't know.
Well, they had to like make him feel guilty for like, oh, this is why you just can't give people money.
Yeah.
Which is
could have been a better death, though. Oh, he went and, he extended himself to gangsters and they killed him, or, something that would make sense in that world, not just, I'm just going to park in front of a bottle until my brain stops. It's like, that doesn't seem.
Yeah, to show he's got a kid on the way. So,
yeah.
They run to a pawn shop and trade some Sylvia's diamond earrings, and so they get 2 days for them. And they're about to time out. This is where we see like Weiss time lenders, and they're like a bank or whatever.
Yeah.
Will calls Philippe, and then the phone gets passed off to Raymond. Will negotiates time for Sylvia. It's like they won't give him time, but he's like, we'll donate it to this mission, which is basically like it's some guy like who's like, if he has extra time, he gives it away to people that are like on death's door or whatever. So it's, so he's trying to be helpful, but, and then, they show Philip is like, his wife's like, it's our daughter. Just give them the time. You have enough. He's like, no, it's the principal. So we'll take Sylvia back to his place. Sylvia's like wearing an armband over her time, her time. She also puts on some new clothes, which is like his mom's clothes, which they mention it for a second, but it should have been like all kinds of weird. But just kind of,
it should have been extra weird. For what it was.
And then Will explains like what he knows about his dad and like his weird arm wrestling trick where it's like arm wrestling isn't, they do like this weird forearm arm wrestling thing which is super stupid, but I guess it's like all right, whatever. Like you have this thing in here, how time transfers, okay, I guess, but and they both talk about like with their timer starting, and then like for Will it's like he's just walking along and his timer started, but because him and his mom are so much in debt, he was like already down to like a day, but like in 2 weeks later, and from then on he was just grinding the rest of the time. And then she just like woke up and then suddenly had like an extra like decade. But her thing was like, it's like, yeah, whenever your timer starts, you look in the mirror and you realize that's how you're gonna look for the rest of your life. So it was a good scene for like showing like the two different worlds and how they, when your timer starts, how it like looks, or it's for all the poor people, it's an incredible burden. For everybody else, it's like this, like, ooh, my future. And also like when the timer starts, they basically have like a mini heart attack. Like there's like arrhythmia, like, oh, what happened? Okay. Then it's morning, and Will's waiting to see if time got donated to the mission. And then Philip doesn't donate any, so it's like, all right. And then Will's planning to let Sylvia go. Yeah, because everywhere, the whole time when she's taking her around, he's still using her as a human shield, which is like not cool. He still has like a gun to her. But now he's like, yeah, I'm gonna let you go. Like they didn't do the right thing, so it's like, all right, but I'm gonna do the right thing. And but now Sylvia's like worried about Will and what's gonna happen. He gives her a gun, and she goes to call her father, and then Raymond pulls up and he's like pointing a gun at Will, and Sylvia sees that and shoots Raymond. Will takes Raymond's gun and like holds him up, and then Will sees that Raymond has less than 3 hours, and so he gives him a couple of hours before stealing his car with Sylvia. So yeah, this is where it's like okay, the timekeepers also live day to day to keep him in line. Sylvia and Will hold up a limo. They rob some rich lady in the back, and he says like, I'd say your money or your life, but your money is your life. Will steals like all our time except for like a day, which I don't think we know what that is yet, how much time he took, but so they take her earrings and steer the limo because he wanted to give her earrings back. And then they see a news report about themselves. Will's wanted, but Sylvia's not. And then she says, like, do I really want to spend my whole life trying not to die by mistake? And then they kiss. And then Philippe is cut to him. He's consulting with like the world time brokers or whatever. And they're scared about too much time in the wrong hands. Cause like if this poor district, if they make all the stuff that, they use, and they no longer need to make stuff, then it's like, well, that screws up their whole economy.
Yep.
Raymond tells Philippe that he issued a warrant for Sylvia's arrest, and Philip tries to bribe him, but Raymond doesn't take it. So now we know he's like, oh, he's an honorable cop. He's also about to die every day for the past 50 years. So that being the end of Act 2. Not exactly sure why, but I guess because like the next phase is like, now they're bank robbing. Now we're in the Bonnie and Clyde phase. So yeah. Act 3, Will and Sylvia rob a bank or a time bank or whatever, and they're offering predatory loans to people. So real on the nose there.
Yeah, they rob a bank by driving an armored truck through the bank when the vault happens to be open, because they're I forget, there was some ruse they used, but yeah, they steal all the time capsules from the vault, and they take a bunch for themselves, and they just start handing them out like, hey, yeah, come on in, everyone, get what you need.
But the timekeepers show up and they see it, and like they don't prosecute anybody. They're just like, get the hell out of here. Will leaves Greta like 10 years because that's what he gave to Johnny or Boral. And then he gives that like the homeless kid like some time on her time capsule while she's sleeping. And then he holds the mission leader like captive, and then forcibly gives him time so he'll donate to a bunch of people. So, And it's I see the gangsters, like some guy is, because now they're starting to distribute money to all the poor people here. Some guy bought a gun, and so when the gangsters pull up to like steal time from him, he pulls a gun on them, and then they like drive off. But then they decide like, no, they really they needs to die for like being stood up to, and so they drive back and shoot him. And this is where you see that like if you die without timing out, that like you just die with your time. It doesn't transfer to anybody. It just, that's it.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how that would affect the economy, but it seems that doesn't happen in real life.
It does if you lose your Bitcoin wallet password.
Will and Sylvia are like playing poker in like a hotel room. It's strip poker, so they make it sexy from them, and then the timekeepers show up, so they gotta put their clothes on. They jump out a window and run. Raymond gives chase, but all the other timekeepers don't, because they're afraid,
unwilling to jump out of the window.
Yeah.
Like I said, in a universe where the medical technology can heal a gunshot wound in a day, even though you're not introduced to that formally, it's like, well, Raymond's back up and fighting again. So,
but also like I'm not sure. Presumably that they work at a New Greenwich, so maybe they just kind of have that mentality of like, be very guarded and protective of yourself, but also you're cops. But I don't know.
Yeah, but they're not like civil enforcement cops. Like they don't care about drugs, whoring, and violence. No. Time crimes. It's like, oh, you guys rob each other and kill each other. We don't care about that.
Well, that's what the gangster guy says later on. He's like, he's not mad that they're stealing time from other people. He's mad because they stole from a bank, because he only steals from his people, so the banks don't get mad, so the cops don't show up.
Yeah.
So he's actually an even worse gangster, because he's refusing to steal from the government. He just steals from other people.
Yeah, he's just a pure parasite in his own ghetto. He's not like the romanticized mob guys or something. Like, no, we're stealing the Lufthansa payroll.
Yeah, so they're running, they're exchanging fire. Will and Sylvia like bribe the bus driver to take him away, and like they're able to get away. And then and then Will and Sylvia walk into a hotel and rent out the entire hotel to themselves, which is fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, that was another thing. It's like, yeah, how do hotels work in this universe? Like, I doubt there's many people in the ghetto that need a room or can afford one.
Well, it's kind of like hotels in the real world, pay by the hour, literally.
Fortis is the gangster. He holds up a bunch of people looking for Will and Sylvia. One of the gangster takes all the time from somebody, and they die from timing out. And then they get sold out by some guy who was like trying to get a room when they bought the whole hotel. So he says he just wants some of the reward, which was the reward 10 years.
I think it was 100 years.
100 years, okay.
And then it became a lot more than that, I think, as time went on. Well, because there's also an interstitial scene where Will and her are on the roof looking at another bank, and they see it's like, oh, the more time we steal, they just raise prices.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't really doing any good. It's just they're just getting their money back one way or another, or their time back one way or another.
Yeah.
So that's also been established too. It's like, oh, we got to up the ante, which of course you have to in a movie. But
and then Will and Sylvia are making out when the gangsters, the Minutemen, break in. This is where he explains, like the timekeepers leave him alone because he just steals from the people and not from the government or the private banks and stuff. And this is where Forrest also sets up the arm wrestling fight where Will does his thing where it's like he lets his timer like tick over to almost zero, and so when they concentrate on the timer, he reverses it. So he reverses it, and the time starts to go to Will, and then he pulls out an ankle gun, is able to shoot all like 4 other gangsters there as they have guns out already, and then he times out Fortis and kills him, and then Will and Sylvie run away. So.
And the ankle gun he uses is the Cop 357 Derringer, which is a weird 4-barreled breakover that holds like 357 Magnum rounds,
Yeah.
which has been used in a lot of future movies because it just looks futuristic. But if you see people actually try to shoot it, it is a miserable experience. Because it has 4 separate barrels, a very heavy trigger, and you're holding onto this little bitty gun that's firing a 357 Magnum. There was some cool gun stuff in this movie, like the two-tone Glocks, and one of the gangsters was using a Ruger Red Hawk 44 Alaskan, which is an anti-bear gun. It's just like a pocket pistol that if a bear comes into your tent, you can get it out and fire these, giant bullets out of this snub-nosed weapon, which is a blast if you watch YouTube videos. People love firing those. It's like,
wear a wrist brace.
Yes.
And it's like a little while later, the timekeepers like display all the dead bodies of the gangsters while there's a gathered crowd, but doesn't really seem to be a purpose to it because he's like, yeah, get all your looks in while you can now. But here's where they see like as they're giving away all the time to people, the interest rate just keeps rising and all the costs go up. And so Sylvia goes to rob her father. Like he has like way more guards now, but apparently like Will snuck into one of the guards and he puts a gun to Philip's head and they take him away. And he's like, you'd steal from your own father? And she's like, and this is a constant refrain. He says it isn't stealing if it's already stolen.
Yeah.
And so they go into Philip's vault and there's a time capsule with 1 million years on it. So yeah, Will and Sylvia are trying to crash the system with all the time they have, and they're trying to give it away as fast as possible. And then Raymond spots them. Raymond only has like 44 minutes left, and this also like incredibly condensed because like from here, like the chase is about 10 minutes and he's dead within that 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like a half hour, 45 minutes to go by, but it's okay, whatever. I never really hold the time stipulation stuff to movies unless they fuck up where they like show the timer and then cut back to it and it's a different time. Like it went somehow reversed.
Yeah, it's a mechanism, but it's not like there's movies that just center around time. I'm trying to think of one. But this is more like 24. Remember that TV show?
Yeah.
It's like, he's always got 24 hours, or this is the 24 hours in which shit happened, and there's like, and somebody flew to Europe. It's like, well, wait a minute, that's it's like 8 or 9 hours. Like, you just you flew to Europe in the SR-71. I don't think, but it's just a mechanism.
Well, I remember, I think it was like season 3, like Jack Bauer had already been up for like 2 days, and then the 24 hours starts, and then like 6 episodes in, they let him sleep for like half an hour, and he's like not in the episode for like half of it. It's like, oh, good, they gave him a bit of a nap.
Yeah, take a nap. 3 days running around for your life, not just being awake. That would be hard, but just running for your life. It's like, yeah, get to take a nap, get some of the poisons out, and come back to work.
So yeah, Raymond spots him on the highway as they're driving around. The timekeepers set up a roadblock and they're just like shooting the hell out of them as they're trying to leave the zone, and they just kind of like crash through the ticket booth rather than like the concrete barriers. So
yeah, thank God that was made out of wood and cardboard, and not also concrete, because that wouldn't have been as fun. That was ridiculous. I hated that. And the movie was like, oh, come on, that's all right. Yeah, we didn't see that.
But this is again another thing where like they go from New Greenwich to Dayton in like 2 minutes rather than like the aforementioned like half a day.
Yeah.
Raymond keeps giving chase and he crashes their car. Will has like a minute left, and they run as the crowd like rushes to get the. Oh yeah, there's a crowd that's rushing to the mission to get time from the one guy, and so that crowd is able to give them some time to run away. But then Raymond, this is like a weirdly edit where like they just kind of cut to them running in different directions, and then he just winds up in front of them randomly.
Yeah.
Which kind of seems like this had to be either a reshoot or that's just all they had to edit together. Like I almost happened, like there'd almost have to be a reshoot because I have to imagine they probably shot a bummer ending, and then this seems like the happy ending the studio would want or something.
Yeah, just Raymond like waiting for them both to time out. It's like, remember, greed always wins. What I've learned in 50 years, and the movie just ends with their bodies falling to the ground. Credits.
Yeah, so Raymond stops them at gunpoint on foot. And then this is where we find out that Raymond used to be from the ghetto. He said, he says, I didn't start the clock, I keep it running. And then Raymond just times out randomly. So like all of his story kind of
he forgets to collect his daily pay because he's so involved in the car chase.
Yeah.
Which you think it's like, yeah, I'm involved in this car chase. However, if I die during it, I will no longer achieve my goal. Let me take 2 seconds to stick my hand in this thing. But it's a movie.
Yeah. Well, and then it allows the thing that happens later. Well, I guess immediately later. Because Will and Sylvia both only have like a minute left, and then they're running to the timekeeper car to try to get some time. But Will gets the car first. He gets some time, and then he's like running to Sylvia, and so it's like mirroring the scene from the first act where he's running at his mom. But this time she doesn't die in his arms, and so he's able to save her. And then we cut to there's like a fearful report about like all the factories closing down and all the poors invade New Greenwich because they have time now.
But do they have weapons?
Yeah, that's another thing they don't get into. Like the weapons seem to be like are they legal or illegal? It seems to be because it seems like most people don't have guns, probably because it's expensive. But there's some additional.
Nothing. This movie never touches on like what are the penalties for like civil crimes. Do they take time away from you? Do they imprison you? Both. Because there doesn't seem because you only see like pistols and then some stires on the bridge that the timekeepers have when they're trying to like shoot through this car that's obviously like impervious to any gunfire, but just keep hammering away at it.
Don't shoot the tires.
Don't shoot those tires. It's just like a Martian war machine from War of the Worlds. Just keep firing at it,
And then there's like an additional news report where like Will and Sylvia are like wanted criminals.
1,000-year reward.
Yeah. And they're outside another bank that's is even bigger. Or just one car outside a giant bank. So, and then credits. It's like now they're gonna break the system.
What you need to do is just find the timekeeping system, the core, what runs it. Just shut it off. And just make everyone have a tattoo of a figure 8, but then like also you can't have any kids.
Yeah,
and then rebuild from there. It's like now we have to go into space. We can't have kids until we can go into space and find other planets to, conquer. And then then they discover they can't go through space, but they can go through time because they've mastered time. And then we have like an Independence Day where they're just invading alternate versions of Earth. This franchise could go on forever.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought this was a cool movie despite its flaws. I
didn't love it. I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
I found it visually engaging, just like Gattaca. And once I found out, I was like, oh, this guy did Gattaca. Yep, I can see it. The performances were good.
Yeah. I think the problem is, like, if you break it down by act structure, like, as a strong first act where it just explains everything that goes on, you have his, mother die, and he's given all this time, and his mother dies, and he wasn't able to do anything about it, even though he has all this time now. And then he's like out to get revenge, but he's also like bathing in luxury to see what that's like. And then all of a sudden, he's holding he's using his love interest as a human shield.
Yeah.
And then they have the cops chasing after him, and they try to intimate that like, oh, there's mentions like they say his dad was a fighter, but just this weird forearm wrestling thing. But they say something like kind of like maybe his dad was a revolutionary, but they just never dive further into that. It's just like a because they start him in the first act. They show that like, oh, he's tough, he can handle himself, but also he's helping the kid out, giving some time, so he's like selfless. So they do good stuff there, and then like then he's using the love interest as a human shield, not good. And then there's suddenly Bonnie and Clyde to what ends like they're gonna give time to people like, but again like they even realize like they have a goal, but they have no plan. So they have no idea, like, after they accomplish things, like, how it's going to affect the world or how they're going to, like, react to it. It's just like, oh, no, we did a thing and nothing happened.
Well, so that's a problem with a lot of thinking like this in, like, real history and reality, is there's a lot of people that are very revolutionary, but then, like, what do you do after the revolution's over?
Yeah.
And this is just a movie about the revolution, not about, okay, now we're in charge and now we do X, Y, or Z. Now it never gets there because it's just all emotional appeal and not like, no one's reading like Adam Smith and like, okay, how do we reestablish an economy that works? No, which wouldn't be very interesting. Just a bunch of revolutionaries sitting around reading stuff. It's like, what do we do?
But I think about I think is what great about this movie is just like it just gives you a lot to think about. Where it's like I'm trying to imagine it's like because we never see a hospital, but like what's that like? Like what if you get injured? Like what if you're in the hospital for days? Are you just gonna die in the hospital from timing out rather than your wounds or whatever?
Yeah.
And again, like sleeping, like what's that like? That's a whole television episode of like the cultural of sleeping in the end time world.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're basically immortal, it's like, is there like a way to like, save time by not sleeping, and they can do something to you so you can like stay awake without dying? It's like because there'd be interest in technology like that, you know. And again, if they can stop you aging up in perpetuity and not dying of like organic death, it's like they must have some miracle technology, which is why I don't think that it's kind of illogical that the world would end up this way. It's like, oh no, people just want more of that immortality tech, and they would just go further and further into making that happen, and we wouldn't create this weird economy of souls, essentially. But again, it's an idea movie, not a completely filled out universe.
Yeah, because like his like the character arc to everyone, it's like Will just like he doesn't necessarily get revenge. He just kind of like makes the world better for the place he was at. But you actually don't know if he actually made it better or if it's just temporary. They had temporary freedom. Like we got to go to New Greenwich for a minute before the war started.
Yeah. The time war started.
Yeah. And like Cillian Murphy's character was like interesting, but he just suddenly dies because he was like too involved in his job. He doesn't we don't know if he has a family or if he's just like his job is 100% everything he's done. It's like we don't know how sad we should feel about Cillian Murphy's character, which we probably should feel really sad.
Yeah, because he seemed to be like a moral center or a kind of a moral center to a very awful universe. It's like, well, he's just the guy doing his best within the framework of the system because you can't buck this system. Or at least he doesn't see the need or imagination to. And then,
he's not helping the poor people, but he's also not being bribed from the rich people. But like ultimately, what he does helps the rich people, but he still has honor to it. So like
it's like when the people were looting those time cubes from that bank. He was just like, everyone go home, or we're gonna we're gonna roll everyone back to an hour unless you leave now. It's like he knows that they stole all, but he's like, this isn't. I don't care. Screw these people, not the poor people, the rich people that own the bank. It's like, we got eons.
In Sylvia's character, like, I guess she has like an arc where it's like, I'm a naive girl, and now, and my father was a horrible person, so I'm gonna fight against him.
but she seemed to always hate her father. So it's like, I
Yeah.
don't see growth there. It's like,
Yeah.
she just hates him for a different, she has new material,
Yeah.
but she's essentially a static character.
And and this like, and Philip isn't like a great bad guy. He's just kind of like, you don't like him, but he's not an interesting bad guy. The interesting thing is the concept of the world being the bad guy. There's not actually a literal bad guy that's interesting.
Yeah, he's just kind of its messenger
Yeah.
uh, of whatever this is. But it's also like, if you are willing to suspend disbelief that something like this could exist, like technology like this, is like, oh yeah, there's people in a heartbeat that would go for this because it would solve all the problems, because the poor people have to die so the rich people can have everything. That's essentially like, well, that's true now.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to abstract universes to see that. So,
well, actually, that's a weird thing. Even though this abstracts like wealth into time, it actually puts everything into focus. Like, if everything was actually worth in time, like this is actually what the world looks like. You just can't see it.
yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how people think.
In this show are like, they're not that bad.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's young, they're clothed, the buildings seem to be at least somewhat painted. Everything's in a state of decrepitude, and people are obviously, everyone looks like a shark, like they're always cruising for something. But like the ghettos around here, it's, I don't know, just constant gunfire, shit on fire. The places look like they're collapsing. It's like, well, these are actually kind of nicer ghettos, but that's because everyone has the convenience of dying in this universe that's poor. So
Yeah.
here people have open-ended miserable existences.
But also, like, the other thing that was cool was like a lot of the cultural stuff they came up with, where it's like, poor people like move faster because they just have to, and
Yeah.
like all the rich people like take things slower. There's even like some of the stuff where, there's the one like sex worker where she's like, hey, call me up sometime to Raymond. He's like, hey, what were you pushing 60 there? It's like, don't tell anybody that. It's like, even though she looks 25, if people found out she was like 60, then it's like, ugh. And there doesn't seem to be like, STDs or anything in this world. So
No, you will not die from organic death in this world. You won't die of cancer. Your heart won't quit. I mean, you cannot die. You can only die if you're destroyed, or you can die all the way as we can. You can be burned, shot through the head and all that. But yeah, you won't die of like disease or age. So I'm assuming there's no like STDs or anything.
Yeah. Which like again, if this was a television series, that'd be a fascinating thing to explore. Like what happens when this touches everything, like how does it evolve in the world? Like that's why I just really think it's...
Well, imagine like genius craftsmen, like woodworkers, anything like that. That like if they could make enough money to live 100 years, like if Einstein just kept living, like what ideas would he have come up with?
Yeah.
And if he could just keep doing that in perpetuity, I mean, you'd have like amazing, impossible works of art. Like he worked on this for 20 years. It's like no one can really do that in our world because you just get too old or tired, because you're not getting any older every day.
Yeah.
So you go to bed 25, you wake up 25. It's your back doesn't hurt, you don't ache. It's so it's like, yeah, there's aspects of this world that would be fascinating, but it all just focuses on greed. So
yeah,
which is also what our world focuses on too. I mean, there's some nice people, but
it's on
like
Amazon.
because the mission, remember, it had the crucifix and the neon sign.
Yeah,
it would say time or no time. When it said time, people would line up, and get 15 minutes. I don't know what they were getting, but
yeah.
So there were like good people in this world trying to do good, but they were just overwhelmed by this onslaught of evil and greed, which again, it's not like an unthinkable, like, I can't imagine a world like that. It's like, oh really? Well, you don't get out of the house much, do you?
Yeah, I saw some guy, I mean, I didn't read the rest of the slide, but I saw the catchphrase on it was Biden interest inflation or Biden inflation. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah. That's all. It's all
yeah, the president did that, not all the greedy corporations you're standing up for.
Yeah. American corporations standing up for the common man. Yeah, okay. Right. Tell me more. Corporate America fights for the family. It's like, yeah, this sounds like the most likely thing I've ever heard.
So yeah, there are other, so this, this isn't the first thing to have the idea of like money as time. It is almost hilarious how the other things that exist, like, this is a movie unto itself. It's different from all these things that like had it before it, but everybody is like, they make fun of this movie. It's like, it's essentially the same plot of In Time, and it's like, no, these other works like are completely different from In Time. But all right. So yeah, so Harlan Ellison sued this film. We know him. We know him to be.
And I like Harlan Ellison.
Yeah, I do too.
I like him as a writer. I don't. His personality is, he's like never. He's one of those guys. It's like you really don't want to meet your heroes. In his case, it's like, okay, yeah. He grew up rough in Dayton, weirdly enough. Dayton, Ohio. I think that's his hometown.
But he wrote a short story called like Repent Harlequin, said the TikTok man.
Yeah.
And so there are things where like there's a concept of like time is money. There's a thing called like a cardio slate that like will stop your heart if you run out of time. But you don't automatically die for running out of time. Somebody has to like hit the heart slate, the cardio slate thing. And then there is the force that keeps it in place are called the timekeepers, and that's essentially it. It's kind of like an abstract 1984. The guy works in a jelly bean factory and he's messing with people because he doesn't like the world, and like if you're late, it'll cost you time and stuff like that. And then the TikTok man like basically kind of do like the well, he even mentions the character from 1984 where they basically hypnotize him and make him say like, oh, I was wrong, yeah, it's actually good to be on time and stuff like that.
How many fingers am I holding up, Winston? Yeah, that kind of thing.
Or the Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
And then I did a scrub watch. This one's pretty close to this movie. There's a short film in 1987 called The Price of Life, where also time is currency and that's your life. Everyone has like this portable credit card reader that they transfer on, so they don't have the cool like tattoo, like arm thing that like
a little more workmanlike. Yeah.
There's a special valley where like all the rich people live. They're called the Old Ones, and you can apparently only go there once. I'm not sure because if it costs you a bunch of time or that's the rules. And this kid wants to like give his mom time, but they don't allow you to like give time between family members, because apparently that's how they keep order or something.
Yeah.
Because if everyone could help each other, then our world doesn't work.
Well, that's called creating value.
Then it's like 15 years later, and the kid goes to the city as an adult. The city's different from the valley, but there is also perpetual youth, but like it costs money. So there's cool like anti-aging stuff, but it's not automatic. You have to buy it.
Yeah.
And like he goes to the city with him and his sister. Go to the city. Like he's like a businessman, so he's like trying to sell something to like some investors, and they're in a casino, and his sister like literally gambles away her life. And then like the speaker on the thing starts speaking out the time as before she dies, and then like you hear it speaking out, and she goes to him and like he hugs her, but he can't give her time, and so when the time's out, she just collapses and dies. Then they go back home and bury her. This also where like the mom says like, oh, I got 25 years left, but like it ends up not being that. Because he goes to the valley to talk to the Old One to try to get time. He wants to give his time to his mom, and then like the one guy allows it, but then while he's there, he gets like an offer to basically like join the valley, but he has to like give away his time to do it. and so his mom dies in the meantime, and then he goes back home, and they give her like a Viking funeral. They like build like a pyre like platform to light her on fire.
Yeah.
um,
Very strange movie too.
yeah,
Moves at a glacial pace and kind of has some weird
yeah,
acting and dialogue.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, then he goes back to the valley. They give like there's like some kids he grew up with that give him like some diamonds, and they're like, yeah, don't take less than 50 years for this, and they end up just like fighting over like the burning mother at the funeral as they leave to go back to the valley because they're never going to come back. They're just gonna live a cool life in the valley with this ageless lady. um, and then also there was a TV show from the 50s, but even before Twilight Zone called Tales of Tomorrow, where again it's like time is currency, but it's weird because the bankers, like, they look human but they're actually aliens, and they need to like convince this lady to give up her time so this alien race can live, and then she does it and ends up like working against her, and a clock falls on her at the end and she dies. So again, like, these are all interesting things, but they are not the exact same movie as what In Time is. It's a completely different movie.
Yeah, I do remember thinking that the one from the 80s was like, this must be a continuation of that, because I remember that for its weirdness.
Yeah.
Because I probably watched that in the 80s. Yeah. And when this movie came out, I was like, oh, this must be like a new take on that. But apparently they're independent works. And
yeah. They aren't listed on there. I mean, like, yeah, The Price of Life is the one that's the closest, because you have like instead of the time reader, you have like the credit card thing, and there's like the perpetual, you're perpetually young, but so like that's the closest, but it is a different thing, because that's not necessarily, The Price of Life isn't necessarily about like greed and how it affects everybody. It's just like, well, this is how the world works, and it's really fucked up.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, and it's like, can you do anything about it? Nope. But you can live in the valley with the rest of us and be happy, because greed is good. Remember, that was in the 80s. So,
but also it's a short film, so it's like 38 minutes. You can find it on YouTube. So
yeah.
Yeah, so I had the thought that they should have called it Just in Time, and then like just confuse people. It's like, it's Justin Timberlake in Just in Time. It's Just in Time, although he's not called Justin in the movie.
They could have gone with that. This movie, interestingly, internationally, was a lot more successful than it was in America.
Oh yeah, this bombed here hard, made 37 million locally, and made 137 million globally. So
yeah, actually considered a success.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes they don't. If it's not a domestic success, sometimes movie studios they don't consider it a success, because sometimes with the international stuff they don't get all that money, but they can claim that like, hey, look at all this money we made. I'm not sure how it was then, but oftentimes like the international rights get sold off to other companies.
Okay.
I remember famously, to get Die Hard with a Vengeance made, they like sold off the international rights to like, Studio Canal or something, so they got like an extra like $15 million to make the movie with, and then it ended up being like the biggest worldwide success of that year, and so they didn't get any of that money.
Nice. That's gotta make you feel good.
Well, that was a Fox movie, and so was this. So.
Well, this guy's made some movies that like the director Andrew Nicole.
He also wrote Truman Show. That was like his first big thing. He wrote the movie. Okay. He wrote Truman Show. So,
well, he made movies like Gattaca that I stylistically enjoy, and he also made a movie that I just really enjoyed called Lord of War.
Yeah,
with Nicolas Cage, and I remember like, those two movies stand out. So
yeah,
as movies that I liked. And Anon was okay. I've never seen Good Kill.
Oh, I thought you did, because I think there's like a British kind of version of it where it's just like drone pilots stuff. But yeah, it's just about.
Oh, wait, is that the one where Ethan
Ethan
Hawke's
Haw-
the drone pilot.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I have seen that. I haven't seen The Host. That's the one I haven't seen.
Oh yeah, I don't. That's some like young adult novel turned into movie
Oh,
nonsense.
okay. So I'm probably not going to be interested in that.
No, I doubt it.
Like I said, it was good. It was. I was surprised. I did not know that Cillian Murphy was in this at all
Yeah,
until he showed up. I was like, oh, okay, wow,
yeah, it's a good cast.
yeah,
Yeah, again, I just thought, and even though it's false, it just seems weird that how the critics like just jumped on it, and
yeah.
I feel like it didn't deserve that hate.
No, I mean I could see why it wasn't perfect, but
Yeah,
I can also see like, well, it's still like better than like I didn't feel like, oh, I'm just going to watch something terrible, you know. And after I was done, I was like, oh yeah, this was okay. Uh,
I mean, it's kind of a high concept movie, so like if you enjoy the concept, you'll kind of like you'll let a lot of flaws go by for the with the movie. But oh yeah, so forget like yeah, this is also very close to Logan's Run in some ways. So
yeah, yeah,
but there you die when you like or crystal lights up when you turn 30 and then they come and kill you, so you don't immediately die. But
you can try for renewal in Carousel, which didn't seem like, you know, you just fly around and get shot with lasers. That doesn't seem like there's any renewal there.
I've never actually seen Logan's Run. I just know about the concept of it. So.
It's dark 70s sci-fi.
Yeah.
Because that was around the same time that like Westworld and so, yeah, it was that kind of genre of down, what I call downer 70s sci-fi. Well, we just remember we talked about Silent Running. Like, yeah, it's the ultimate like downer 70s sci-fi. Corporations win, man. So that's from Family Guy. I'm not claiming credit for that, but yeah.
I mean, it's you know, the Rollerball has similar stuff too. So
yeah, oh yeah. It's like, that's odd. Okay.
Well, if you like what
cool movie, yeah. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
If you like what you heard and how can it, you can find us at anchor.fm/Verhoeven Effect or go to verhoeveneffect.com. It'll take you to the same place. You can rate our podcast whatever you want, but the only thing the algorithm listens to is the highest rating. Remember, you control the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't control you. We also have listener support there at verhoeveneffect.com, where you can support us either a monthly stipend of either 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99. And if you support the podcast, we'll just do more faster, because that always brings quality.
Yep.
You can find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect, Facebook Verhoeven Effect, and you can find us on YouTube at American Greed Factory. You can find both this show and that show live and unedited. And you can also get t-shirts from us at belowthecollar.com/Greed Factory. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Conlon.
I'm Nathan.
Goodbye, America.